If he refuses to have his counsel represent him in court or not appear, he will have to also do the cross-examination himself. How did we come to that conclusion? Okay, based on what you already know.
Okay, so good morning. But it's important I do this before I answer your question. My deputy national organizer, today happens to be his birthday, Elikem Kotoko. He always come on this show as well. And then Amanda Otri, who was our parliamentary candidate in the 2020 election in Suhum. Happy birthday to them. That said, you see...
Who did give? Is it the Chief Justice or who did that?
No. Okay, so the matter is before the High Court judge. And we've been doing some cross-examination of the first prosecution witness. And the case has been ongoing. But the lead counsel for Mr. Kwesi, Mr. Chachuchikata, for some unexpected reason, was not in court on Friday. So when the issue came up, the next counsel, Justin, intimated to the court that if it's possible, the case be adjourned to allow Mr. Chikata to come and do further cross-examination. And the judge was saying that, look, we've been on this particular witness for a while now. And so in the circumstance, she will adjourn the case to today. And if Mr. Chikata is not around, then she will be forced to say the client should do the cross-examination. You know, it's quite not unusual. I mean, we've encountered such scenarios in court, in other matters, where a judge will say, look, for some obvious reasons, or maybe to avoid delay, the judge will say, okay, go ahead and do the cross-examination yourself, even when there's a lawyer on record. But I think this is a matter that should be resolvable.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Roland. Good morning, HBT, and good morning to your viewers, especially the viewers from Wokankwit North. In matters of law, we also have opinions on it. And like Roland said, there's a running case. But I've heard some commentary on this particular matter and how come the judge gave that sort of ruling. Apparently, the case has been running for what, 3 legal years?
No.
And then there's an ensuing legal break in the next couple of days, right?
No, and so the legal vacation starts today. We'll return October.
Right. So
first week.
There was a need for this case to make progress. And you know, for lawyers, some of their tactics in court is sometimes to also drag some of these issues and all of that.
No, far from that.
We know, I mean, I'm not saying in this particular case, but it's part of your tactics you use in court. We know that one of the issues or considerations they had in retaining J.T. Kwesi is that they thought that whatever the outcome of the elections was, they were going to prolong or try to delay this case in court till the end of the life of that particular parliament. So it is not surprising to some of us that we are seeing this strategies being rolled out in court. But hey, the matter is still in court. Who are we? We just want to watch it unfold as
so like Roland, briefly, like I pointed out, I mean, if someone will be sick or have to take an emergency travel, these are matters that you cannot control. And the lawyers for Mr. Kwesi have demonstrated a certain fidelity to timelines that the court has given. So it's just something that happened as
just
I indicated,
procedural.
On plan.
All right.
So there's no attempt on the part of defense counsel to delay this matter.
Okay. Humphrey, Nikoy, and a couple of others in Medran said on our street, this I should tell you should be careful today because you're going for your seat. No, you're laughing, eh? It's a very serious matter. And then John Bosco Akotia, good morning to you.
It's amazing how they're able to preempt.
You said I should greet you and all teachers, so I'm doing that. Wonder Manfo. And
by the way,
Evans
Chairman Godwin Tamaklo.
Okay. Chairman Godwin Tamaklo. Good morning to you. You're the group chair for Rates Group of Companies as well as Rates Transport, Managing Director. Good morning. And then also...
But now he's up watching us.
Yeah, certainly. He was worried about fuel prices, etc. He was asked for clarifications. And then also Kojo Daniels, Chairman Kojo Daniels, good morning to you. And then Riches, that is Riches Kutia, good morning to you. Work with Aluwex. Now, what is the finance minister going to tell Ghanaians to be the state of the nation currently by way of the state of the economy, their economy?
Roland, it's part of the requirement by the Public Financial Management Act. In fact, it's one of the, for me, it's one of the best piece of legislations we have in this country, which since 2017 has brought a lot of transparency and
it was
openness.
passed in 2016.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I said, so it started operating in 2017.
No, I just wanted to be on record.
So the New Patriotic Party government is the first government to have gone through it. So some requirements which hitherto were not part of our processes. You could recollect that I remember that at a point, even the dates on reading of budgets were problematic, whether it should be within the year or the year before. But thankfully, this piece of legislation irons this out, and as part of the requirement, I think in Section 28, provides a mid-year, the Minister of Finance should go back to Parliament and give an update on the budget that he is running. In this budget, there are options for the minister. If the appropriations are going to be affected, when I say appropriations, I'm referring to the approval of revenues and expenditures in November, that's when the actual budget was done. If we're going to be affected, then he takes a supplementary budget to Parliament for the processes to go through. Whether there are going to be approvals or not, it will depend on whether or not they are supplementary. But I'm from what I'm gleaning this time around, there will not be any adjustment to appropriations, and so it's going to be in the form of a statement. The minister going to Parliament. He's going to go to Parliament to provide an update. In the budget for 2023, the minister had indicated that the policies contained in the fiscal policy was aimed at re-establishing macroeconomic stability, taking our economy to debt sustainable levels, ensuring that we again start attaining inclusive growth. He went on to talk about the social protection policies of the government that we needed to bring up. And of course, it's been a year since the president decided or gave a directive for the ministry to engage the IMF in some negotiations. We've seen how far we have come. It's also going to be something that the minister is going to give us updates on. But you see, in the minister going to Parliament, we've had the opportunity to run this particular budget for at least 6 months, and we have seen some gains that we intend to build upon over the next 6 months as we run this budget. You could see that inflation, for instance, was in the ranges of about 54% in December. Now we are talking in the regions of 42. It means that we have gained at least 12% within the last 6 months, given what we have had to go through with the engagement of the fund. Remember, there has been adjustment in utility rates. There have been some taxes that have been introduced. And in fact, our oil revenues are also not doing too well. But in the midst of all these things, we've been able to attain some level of stability when it comes to inflation. Our currency itself, it's seen a better performance than we saw last year. Year to date, we're doing about 22%. Last year, we experienced for the whole year about 30% depreciation in the currency. That aside, we can talk about indicators like GDP growth. For Q1, we are recording in excess of 4%, given that the projected GDP growth for the whole year is about 1.5%. But there are a lot of adjustments that will happen within the year, given the seasonality of activities and transactions within the year. So the minister is going to Parliament, and we expect that he gives an update on all of this, where we are, where we came from, where we are, and what he foresees us to do in the next 6 months. Holistically, this update will also tell us about our engagement with the fund. The fund, we closed this transaction a couple of months ago. We got our first tranche. There are some indicators that we have to meet before we get our next tranche. He's going to give an update on that. And essentially, even when we have gotten or we have agreed or we see the figures, it is essentially the right of the fund to also come verify before we move on to it. So that's essentially what we expect to get from the minister as he goes to Parliament today. I can also tell you that, look, the minister has been ready for over a week to do this, but preparations and timelines in Parliament and the likes have actually delayed this for about a week. But hey, finally we are here, and it is a mini budget day, half year, and we're looking forward to good news coming in from A. Essentially, he's also going to talk about the social protection policy, the school feeding, and the capitation grants and or the likes, where we are, what we are going to do to ensure that we are up to date, and this policies actually catch the people who fall through the net. So it is a very expectant date, and I'm sure the minister is going to go to Parliament to give us good news as a nation.
Ebiji, a critical aspect of the 2023 budget that was presented in November, for which the finance minister did say, we'll get an approval subsequently extending to the board by January, with all those assurances, led to those who had bought government bonds or debts having to go through extreme restructuring since the last time that we undertook the budget. And then also a deficit of over 61 billion, for which, if you look at how we've done the appropriations or the implementation of this budget over this period, you don't see the cuts, the austere measures that ideally you would expect that a country that is before the IMF. What do you say to that?
Okay, so once again, good morning to our viewers. If you're a businessman, if you're an importer, household, and you're expecting anything useful from the finance minister this morning, I want to use this platform to encourage you to look elsewhere. I mean, to put your trust in this obnoxious, corrupt, incompetent Akufo-Addo administration will be the greatest risk you want to take. As we speak, the numbers are not business friendly. Let the record be set out there that within this period, which is under review, government of Ghana has introduced new raft of taxes. And those new taxes have made households, businesses, among others, worse off. We are making this point against the backdrop of a government that promised that they will move the economy from taxation to production. After 6 years, almost 7 years, the scorecard is that this economy had moved from taxation to more taxation. And there's no end in sight. Look, the reason why we find ourselves in this terrible position of the economy is that all the signs that were on the wall were ignored by the toxic mixture of Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta administration. Why do I say so? When Ken became the finance minister of this republic, he started with a borrowing agenda, which borrowing agenda was also privately motivated, in the sense that by April 2017, he had already gone for the Franklin Templeton bond of $2.25 billion. The next year, he did another $2 billion Eurobond. And he had been doing consistently Eurobond until 2022, when the international rating agencies downgraded us. And that is what stopped Ken Ofori-Atta from going to the Eurobond market. But even when the international market, the bond market was locked up, he resorted to Bank of Ghana financing. So by 2022, Bank of Ghana alone had put in excess of 35 billion Ghana cedis into the economy. The same as going for Eurobond of $2 billion. So there had been a consistent borrowing, and I must say, reckless borrowing by the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia administration. And that has put the economy to the point that for the first time in the history of this country, we are having to do debt restructuring. We are having to take from pensioner bond holders, persons who decided to live their life properly, save for future uncertainties. We have a situation where today, the Ken Ofori-Atta managed economy had produced a situation where we have defaulted even on servicing our public debts and the debt owed to multilateral individuals or whatever. So the question that we should be asking ourselves that the quagmire that the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia administration have put all of us in, is there any way out? One preacher once said something. He said, look, if you find yourself in a hole and you have a clear intention to get out of that hole, what you don't do is to dig more. Wisdom has eluded this government that even in the midst of crisis, that is when they are digging more. So every policy intervention, whether on the fiscal side or the monetary side, has been a disaster. Disaster that has resulted in the fact that today, if you pick about 54 countries in Africa, right? Ghana has the third highest inflation. There are only two countries that we succeeded in beating in the race to the bottom. Zimbabwe and Sudan. And we know the systematic problem with Zimbabwe and its association with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia many years ago. So clearly, even the two countries that are not doing well or that we have outperformed in the race to the bottom, which is Zimbabwe and Sudan, they have peculiar challenges. Sudan is going through a war. It's more like a war zone now. Zimbabwe is systemic.
But I have to add that recently, just from July, Sierra Leone has been added to that 44.8.
Yes, so that is why I'm saying that they are the only one that we are even performing better. Sierra Leone, after escaping Ebola and the rest. But the point ought to be made very clear that we are dealing with a government that is so resourced that you wonder how they have recklessly plunged all of us into this debt portfolio. Why do I say that this government is the most resourced? Within 8 years, Mills, Mahama, Emisata, 8 years, the envelope of financial resources that was available to this administration was 248 billion. And I recall Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia in those public lectures would always tout John Mahama that what have you been able to do with 248 billion? And that if he, Bawumia, and his boss were in the chair, they were going to build 1,000 factories and many kilometers of road network. Roland, this administration, by way of tax revenue alone, till now have made in excess of 300 billion Ghana cedis, not 248. And when I say the overall financial envelope of financial resources, I'm talking about taxes, I'm talking about loans, I'm talking about grants. In 8 years, that's how much NDC had. These people, only tax revenue alone, minus loans, grants, is over 300 billion Ghana cedis. And what is the scorecard? What do they have to show for? Nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm sure they will say, oh, free SHS. As we speak, the overall cost of free SHS is a little over 11 billion Ghana cedis. Even that 11 billion Ghana cedis, Ken Ofori-Atta had only released 5.4 billion Ghana cedis. So they are even arrears. Oil revenue alone last year gave us $1.2 billion just last year, oil alone. So you have a government that had gotten so much financial resources, but with very little to show for. And that is why the clarion call today is that we should not make the mistake of entertaining these people beyond December or 7th January 2025. Because the record is so abysmal. The recklessness, the corruption. A week ago, we're here talking about Cecilia Dapa. If one woman can have an excess of those kind of monies in her room, you can imagine what the finance minister is keeping by way of imagination, or the president or the vice.
And then there have even been concerns about how that even dovetails into the objectives of making sure we show up our forex. And
yes, because you see, and you see,
that's a far departure from what government's objective is.
Even more serious is the fact that if a minister of state, right, had decided to keep her monies at home, pensioner bondholders decided to invest in government instruments. Government incorporated Dachin PLC to securitize get fund receivables, right? And those monies, people decided to, to go for those bonds. Today, government has defaulted. Those pensioner bondholders are having to pick it. But you see, Madame Cecilia Dapa, who is also a pensioner, because she's past 60, decided to keep her money at home and not to invest in government security. You see the irony? So that she will keep her money safe at home, whilst pensioner bondholders who decided to keep their lifestyle well, maintain their resources for future use for their BP, arthritis, and what have you medication, are now having to be worse off. So when you look at the dynamics, we are having to deal with the most useless administration since 1992. And I use the word useless advisedly, in the sense that they have become less useful to the people of this country, having gotten so much financial resources than any administration. Painfully. The only crime our mothers, our daughters, our sisters have committed is that by nature, they have to have their monthly cycle. Even that one, Mr. Akufo-Addo Bawumia and Ken Ofori-Atta have decided to impose over 20 taxes on sanitary pads. I mean, how callous can you be? Nanado, like my good self, God bless us with holy girls. You understand? So if there is anything that you want to do for these people, you don't put tax on it, something that they have no choice. Their monthly whatever is by nature. But even that one, Akufo-Addo had decided to put taxes on it. And I recall vividly, when the Mahama administration decided to give these things for our school kids, free of charge, our friends in the MPP demonized the whole concept. Today, they have decided to impose taxes on it. As for the unbridled corruption and how we have lost public funds through some of these interventions, in fact, I must say that the only social intervention that is really working so well under the Akufo-Addo administration is corruption. Almost all their appointees are socially intervening by way of corruption. And it's painful, very painful, that we are having to deal with this administration. A president that promised that he was going to use the ANAS principle to fight corruption, he had become rather immersed in corruption enterprise. It's unfortunate.
Mr. Issa, there are key concerns that are being raised by civil society. We also tend to also observe the economy about the current state of the banks, for example. Even though, of course, we're told that they might have posted some profit. If you look at what the annual Bank of Ghana report is, the 2022 period had been abysmal. They seem to be recovering now. But there seemed to be a total loss of confidence in the finance minister. Because even that is even having a certain prelude well, we had your side in the House, even saying that they wanted the finance minister to go, with someone who has completely lost the confidence of the generality of key sectors of the economy. He is the man that is not trusted either internationally or locally, and so doesn't have the magic wand. That's a question. What do you say to that?
Before I come to your question, Mr. Tamaklo did raise a couple of issues that I did want to address. He mentioned Eurobonds. Eurobonds did not start under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. You recollect, President Kufuor had inherited a HIPC economy within 7 years. By the time we got to Ghana at 2007, we had built up an economy that could go out for the first time to the international markets and borrow on its own, rather than hitherto dependent on bilateral agreements and all of that. So that didn't give us a free hand as to how we could put our monies to. This is tied into upgrades or downgrades. Unfortunately, we have a parliament that has contributed to this regime. When people have played politics with the national economy, when it came to times that MPs were called upon to do what was important for the national economy, they had decided to do parochial politics. And I mean, coupled with the global economy, where the indicators were, what was happening in other economies, we found ourselves in dire straits, and that's where we are trying to move away from. Yes, resources, why we have been given resources, but then again, this government, right? We have built more roads than any other government in the history of this country.
Lives.
We have built more factories. If the NDC built as many factories as we have done under 1D1F, I'm sure we would have made higher strides or greater strides than where we are today.
How many factories have been built?
Oh, so far we are about 126.
Which produce or products that are manufactured by these factories that have led to a substantial import substitution?
It is a
within the
process.
structure
It
of
is
the
not
economy.
an event.
It has to take you 7 years.
Of course, it's if
A process and
government
event.
before us.
So
if government
can you
before
can you
us-
name one product for which, when you relate to the key issues of importer substitution, we've had a certain inroad made by that locally produced product, which has reduced our import dependency on that product?
Personally, I have taken a decision that I only buy coffee free juice in my house. And so I have stopped contributing to buying other imported substitutes. And if we all take
Give me
that
numbers,
stance-
because when you go GIPC, you don't
But
find the numbers.
I'm telling you what I have
But you're
done
talking about
personally.
your special
that's
personal experiences.
That's at the micro level. If we all decide to take that stance, I can give you figures if you want about Ekumfi, right? I can give you what they are doing, how much is affecting, how much we used to import, and all of that. But this is very practical. It is nothing that it's theoretical. Let's come back to the question of whether or not the man at the helm of affairs. I mean, that's the same man who was at the helm of affairs between 2017 and 2019. Nobody called for his dismissal. We were very happy with his performance. And the indicators are there to show. In that era, our economy grew average of 7%. From an economy that 12 years earlier was growing at around 3%. The agri sector was picking up. The service sector was picking up. That is how you build an economy. Our currency performed better than any other time within the last 16 years. That is the man who was at the helm. And then we were faced with headwinds. And then we started getting, but I'm giving you indicators where we are, what we've been able to achieve. In the last 6 months, the economy that was projected to grow by 1.5% by the IMF, already in Q1, did in excess of 4%. The currency that last year depreciated by 30%. We're seeing performance of 22%. And given the seasonality, where the pressures of the Q1, right, we have gone beyond that. It means that the currency, all things being equal, is going to do much, much, much better than we did last year. That's at the same, the same man at the helm of affairs. So what is the essence
last year
of calling for? We did 30% depreciation last year. And Q1 we know.
In real terms being what? What was the rate in September? Prior to the reading? 8.5. What's the current rate now?
It's about 11.15.
And you call that what?
I'm saying that we are doing much better than they happened last year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but that's what I
You have 8.5, and now the currency is now in excess.
That is what
12%.
we're saying. I'm telling you,
12 Ghana cedis.
depreciation was the whole
for
year.
$1, and
I'm telling you that the
doing
whole year in 2022, the currency depreciated by 30%. So far, we are doing 22%. It means that
you've suspended all payment. You've restructured every debt. And then,
but those were essential things we had to do from the structure of the economy that we run.
Isn't it because of the poor related management of the economy that has led us where we are?
Roland, we have all agreed in this country that look, for the structure of the economy that we run, something drastic has to happen. There are 3 line items. The NDC said it in the last State of the Nation address by JDM in Parliament. When we came, we recognized the fact that 3 line items: our debt servicing, our wage bill, our transfer to statutory funds alone take away all our revenues. We have decided to face headlong the debt problem. And so we are moving to debt sustainability levels. And what we have to do, the necessary and painful things that will make our debt sustainable. It is the only way by which we could affect these 3 line items. If we don't do that and we keep doing business as usual, we cannot change the structure. And so given that, yes, some of this might probably have some impact on individuals and institutions, they are necessary things we have to do to sustain this economy. If we do business as usual and we're continuing to use all our tax revenues to pay our debt, our debt commitments, what happens to our wage bill? What happens to our social protection policies? It is essential. The debt exchange programs that we needed to do, it's like you having malaria and having to take a very bitter pill to be able to resolve the ailment, rather than you taking painkillers that are some sort of dressing on the surface. We are doing the painful things to ensure that we have a structure in the economy that is sustainable. So it is not just the case of because people have gone through painful experiences, it is a necessary evil that we have. And we are continuing to do that until we have an economy that we know to the benefit of Ghanaians. So it is not a case of Ken Ofori-Atta leaving office or not. We are showing, the figures are showing that he's been in there. We've seen improvements in our economic indicators. And who else is in better state to run a program that he had gone to negotiate? It's just obvious that he had gone to the negotiations. He knew what went in there, and he's given the opportunity to run this program until we can.
The accusation is that you those who communicate for government, you become spin doctors, even to the point that your own presidential candidate, individuals who want to be presidential candidates of your party, key individuals who are vocal supporters of the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Kenny Japan, we have Kwabena J. Japan, criticizing the way the economy has been run, not only by the finance minister, but under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And you sit here, what you say is contrary.
Contrary to what?
They are blind. Whatever criticism they are saying, are they blind?
Contrary to what? All those people you mentioned, they supported our campaign in 2020 because they believed in what had been achieved. I can go on and on and on, but I don't want to go on that tangent in our internal political. I can tell you, not all of them. Candidates that I think should be given the opportunity to lead this party again, to lead this party, a candidate that I believe can lead us into breaking the eight. It's not running away. He is actually defending what we are saying, and he's explaining it that way. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will not run away from this, from our records. He has been integral in there. He knows what he's gone through, and he will always stick by it because that is our performance. He will challenge it. He will explain it away. Why we are where we are. That is what is necessary. He is not a type who will stand and say, when I was part of it, I did give suggestions, and if my suggestions had been taken, we probably wouldn't be where we are. He sticks by what the performance of the government has been. He believes in it, and he knows what it takes for us to build upon what we've been able to achieve in the last 6.5 years. So and that's the tangent we want us to go. It is not about those who were part of the system and who will just go aside it, and because their stance is changing. It is not about us being speakers. It is about us speaking reality.
So they are not speaking reality.
I say I'm speaking reality.
On this rebuttal, I think that my brother Fuseni should respect the sensitivities of people watching.
Stop personalizing this thing.
You know, it's so unfair. Issues. If you are an importer, this morning listening to Issa, he's telling you that by December 2022, the cedi that was trading at 8 cedis, 12 cedis today is worse off.
It is not 12 cedis today.
What is it? It is 12 cedis.
But you have just sent
what's the rate on the market? Because you go, it's 12 cedis. What's the rate?
You have sent me a Reuters. Look at that.
It's okay. Let me just make my point. You see, when I raise the issue of the Eurobond, let's put it in comparative terms. In 8 years, the Mills Mahama Emisata administration went to the Eurobond market for $3.5 billion in 8 years.
How many times? What is the size of the economy then? What was the size of the economy then?
Please, you calm down.
Oh, please.
In 8 years, $3.5 billion. In the space of 6 years, 7 years, you have done $11 billion of Eurobond. And you are talking about what? And I'm saying, and let me make this point clear, that the reason for the Eurobond, the unbridled borrowing on the Eurobond market, was that the finance minister was personally profiting from it.
You see, this.
And let me repeat that again.
This media house is in court on a similar matter.
Please, there's no sense.
I think that you should move away.
And let me make the point, because
I think that you should move away from
this. Okay. When you were talking, he was not.
The MP for Okankweno, the lady that defeated him,
Teresa Wuni.
Yes. Asked a question on the floor, and finance minister came and presented the numbers. His own company, a company that he has shares in it, directly benefits from the borrowing. Ebuji, I am making it on this platform. You can dissociate yourself. I want Ken to take the initiative to go to court that the company that Ken, is a shareholder. And you know what he had done? When he was leaving the group, he formed an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, and transferred his shares to that company. He is the beneficial owner. And anytime we were borrowing, his company was making profit out of it. And that was the motivation for the unbridled borrowing. How in God's name can you do this to a country? Akufo-Addo said in opposition that those who are desirous of making money should be in the private sector. You decided to take the office of finance minister. And because of the privileged position you have as a finance minister, you were taking decision that today has plunged this economy in a mess. What you demonstrate is humility. You don't insult the intelligence of people. Even more painfully, you are telling me that when you took an economy where the exchange rate was 3.8, almost 4 cedis, and today you have taken it to 12 cedis, we should clap for you. Look, Bamia used to say that when in doubt, observe the exchange rates. So the man who took the exchange rate from 4 Ghana cedis to 12, at a point even 15 cedis, says he's a better performer. Has he been listening? Kennedy Japan provides a practical experience at the micro level. How these economic numbers. He said, look, the monies he had accumulated by reason of the exchange rate alone, see where they have gotten to. By reason of exchange rate alone, it has completely wiped away his profit. And many businessmen are going through the same thing. Persons, and that is why you ask the question, are you guys spin doctors? People are living a reality, and you are gaslighting them. You are telling them that that is not it. At least this morning, you have not blamed Russia, Ukraine. I was monitoring whether you blame Russia, Ukraine, but so far none. But you see, the point ought to be made clear. You are boasting of 7% GDP growth as at 2017-2018. What was your contribution to that growth? When the available record shows that the oil contribution to that 7% growth was the greater one. And by 2016, the IMF and the World Bank had already indicated that the massive investment by the John Mahama administration in the oil and gas sector will begin to, demonstrate the fruits in the preceding year. What policy initiative did you put in 2017? In 2018? None. In fact, the economy was so strong. In 2017...
A strong economy was growing at 3%.
Oh, please. The economy was so strong in 2017 that it was enough to provide you the balance sheet to borrow 2.25 billion from Franklin Templeton. Today, after 6 years of managing the economy, you can't even borrow from the international market. And you know what the president did the last time? He went on the offensive, attacking the rating agencies. How hypocritical, Mr. Akufo-Addo. This is a man and the vice in opposition. They were using the same ratings from these rating agencies as the basis of criticizing the Mahama administration. Suddenly, these guys are looking at the numbers and they are telling you that you have mismanaged the economy to the point that people no longer have confidence in the economy. And that is how ratings work. He is a finance person. He appreciates these words better. So it is how you have mismanaged the economy with all the financial resources that you've gotten. And as for the issue of mid-year budget, even Setekwe started. And I've always made the point that, look, we have not really celebrated the Mills Mahama administration well enough. Look, 2 pieces of legislation that were passed in 2016 that have provided useful insight for this administration. The Public Financial Management Act, the Banks Deposit Taking Institutions Act, at 9:30. These 2 pieces of legislation that were passed under the Mahama administration have been the reason for most of the far-reaching reforms. Even when they came, the amendment to the Bank of Ghana Act, which required at that time that borrowing from or advances from the Bank of Ghana should not be more than 5%. They decided to go contrary to that piece of legislation. Until today, the IMF asked them that before they can get the November money that will be coming, they need to amend to basically get zero financing from the Bank of Ghana. The wisdom of John Dramani Mahama in putting resources where it matters most is demonstrated by the fact that today, just one industry or factory set up by the Mahama administration, the gas processing plant, we are doing $350 million annual savings. Which of the factories built by Akufo-Addo is even giving this country $6 million annually? None. None. So it's not about the numbers. It is about the utility of the various
But you were
factories.
speaking about numbers
And no, when I say number, it's not about saying that you have built 300 factories. It's about what they are bringing on board.
Because I asked key issues about, if you look at import substitution,
Exactly.
because in the last budget statement, and I was there in Parliament
Sure.
in November, he did say that our import bill, including food, etc., was in excess 10 billion. All right?
Sure.
And then did say that we had 296 1D, 1F projects, some completed, some under completion or ongoing.
Perfect.
So I asked a key question. Which of these produce or products from these factories lead to us reducing the rate of import of a certain produce or commodity?
And you know the pain.
And then subsequently, how do we measure that on the market?
Do you know
he
the
says
pain?
a kumfi, yes.
Yesterday, I had a conversation with a poultry farmer. And that is why I'm saying that these guys are gaslighting us. They are inflicting pain on you and blaming you for the pain. Look at what has happened. Today, our poultry industry is at the verge of collapse, if not collapsed, because of government's reckless policies. Today, we are having to import more onion and tomatoes from Burkina Faso than we are doing ourselves. Rice and many other things. So what has really been your use in 8 years? You came, saw a Canadian grant, and quickly rename it Planting for Food and Jobs. After 6 years of that, policy program, I dare say, we have a food inflation almost the highest in the whole of West Africa. Why have you put us in this debilitating situation? And in those circumstances, what you do is to demonstrate humility in how you communicate. I make the point. What exactly do Ghanaians do? Are farming and others. For the first time, we have seen the Ghana Buffer Store Company owing about 270 million Ghana cedis. And you know that anytime you owe the food suppliers, what it means is that you invariably owe the aggregators, you owe the farmers, and then you owe the input suppliers.
All those along the value chain.
The value chain. So just by releasing even 70 million to these people, what you do is to make life better for them.
And so
Can Akufo-Addo today look Ghanaians in the face and still say Ghana yaye mobo dodo, yaye mobo kura dodo, ni etisika so ni ebre? Can you do that today? Definitely not.
And the last time we had electricity or utility tariffs increasing, they increased by 18%. And not just in May, then starting in June, started the implementation. By the 1st of July 2023, you remember all those taxes and the ones on all the other commodities we were complaining about, including local akpateshi, also kicked off. And subsequently in the last budget, we're told that our import bill was 10 billion, not Ghana cedis, dollars. Some of the key imports that we'll have to forgive ourselves and say those ones make us more dependent and will continue to be dependent on some other import destinations are iron, steel, aluminium, etc. But we have sugar. We don't grow sugar here. Rice, fish, poultry, palm oil. We import as well. Of course, cement, we have fertilizers, etc. But let's look at some of the apparently noticeable concerns that are coming from key individuals who form part of the leaders of the MPP, if not key opinion leaders who are vying to become presidential candidates of the MPP. Let's listen to them. Then I'll pose a question. What have they seen about the poor state of the management of the economy that Mr. Fuseni Issa right here is not seeing? Let's take those insights, and then he will respond.
Strategies, any baby I know. It is only Ghana and I would the economy call IMF also a strategist.
They go about claiming to be strategists. Ghana is the only place that those who take the country to IMF claim to be strategists.
Not dollar 4 cities and that dollar 12 cities. We are strategists. Excuse me, take it in here, me didn't cap.
I used to owe a Turkish for some doors he delivered to me. When I was depositing his cash, a dollar was equal to 6 cedis. In August 2022, when he was coming for $100,000, I paid 1,550,000 cedis, meaning the dollar was equal to 15 cedis, 50 pesos.
Where were the strategies? Oh, sorry, I'm a cabrofu. If the English you go chop, your pocket is empty. If the English you go chop. The message, a daisy woman.
We must be honest enough to admit that the Akufo-Addo government, despite chalking successes in road and health infrastructure, tourism, and of course education, it has struggled to deliver on a number of fronts. We started out saying that we're breaking dependency on the Western donor agencies. The slogan, Ghana Beyond Aid, rang from the Jubilee House with intensity and vigor. But today, we lie on a stretcher before the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and Ghana has become, in the eyes of many, a case study of how not to do it. It is true that the international climate has been hostile, but how many countries have had inflation skyrocket to 54%? And in fact, food inflation hitting the roof. And our city only just slightly recovering after a wild tailspin last year. These are stark signals of economic distress, and we cannot hide these facts. We've had to endure a painful debt exchange program with our pensioners laying siege at the finance ministry. Our party, the MPP, cannot afford to put forward those who led us to this state. I want to repeat myself. Our party, the MPP, therefore, cannot afford to put forward those who led us to this state. and expect Ghanaians to embrace them during the 2024 election.
So, Ken Oforiatta, managing the economy, head of government's economic management.
I give you 3 stats.
And you are saying that these key individuals, all the indicators they say have been poorly managed by Ken Oforiatta as finance.
I'll give you 3 stats.
No,
finance
Roland,
is that what you are saying?
I'll give you 3 stats. When you look at agri growth,
I've asked you a question. Don't go away. Please answer the
no, but
question.
I'm telling you. I'm answering
please,
your question.
Please answer my question.
What's your question? That what?
I'm asking you again.
Yeah.
All these indicators that these key individuals who are big political opinion leaders in the party of the MPP and then also in government and then also in Ghana have noted to have been poorly managed by Ken Oforiatta, economic management team head, Dr. Baumia, the president. Are you saying they are lying? Please answer my question.
Allow me to.
Why do you want
but
you answer the question?
I am going to answer your question. I'm giving you figures. I am going to answer your question with figures.
I mean, you are
answer the question.
When you look at the agri sector,
answer the question.
When you look at the agri
answer
sector,
the question.
Between 2013 and 2016, the agri sector was growing at an average of 3.3%.
Answer the question.
Between 2017 and 2022, the same agri sector was growing at a rate of 4.8%.
What have you been growing?
When you talk about industry, industry was growing at a rate of what I gave was industry which was growing at a rate of 3.3% average between 2013 and 2016 was growing at 4.8% between 2017 and 2022. The agri sector, which was growing at a rate of 2.9% between 2013 and 2016, was growing at the rate of 6% between 2017 and 2022. And that's the reality. That is the reality. I don't know what they are talking about.
You don't know what they are talking about.
I don't know what they are talking about. And I tell you, even when you talk about the exchange rate, everybody here was telling you, and it was referring to businessmen. I will tell you that between 2008 and 2016, the cumulative depreciation
you are refusing to answer my question.
Is 72%. Between 2016 and 2023, it is 62%. We have done better. Yeah. The worst form of the NPP, even given the challenges that we have had to
answer my question.
That we have had to contend with, it is better. We have done much better than the NDC did without the same level of challenges. So what are you talking about when it comes to the economy? Okay. We have done better.
Are you saying Kenny Japan and then also Kwabena Japan, they are lying?
Roland, I put it to you that I have sent you another video. If you are interested and you want to show a true reflection, play that video as well for your viewers this morning.
What is it? What is it?
All right.
What is it?
And already
you're being one-sided because you're not being one-sided.
Calm down.
Please give him water to drink. Give him water to drink.
But why are you refusing to play the video?
Why are you refusing to play the video? As you say that, we also know that the monies that are owed by the Bank of Ghana and the government. We know government has even now issued a 15-year bond, and some of them also written off, etc. Add that one to your analysis.
Yes, so you see,
he has refused to answer, saying one-sided.
I've answered your question, Roland. Why you say I've refused?
Thank you. You didn't answer. On record, you didn't answer.
That's what? I have answered your question. I've given you data.
Calm down.
Within the period. So what is
Mr. Chief Mante says you should stop disrupting the program.
I'm not disrupting the program.
So you see, we are having to deal with the most reckless governors of the Bank of Ghana since 1992. And Dr. Philip Addison should be worried that he, together with the two deputies, Dr. Maswell, Elsie Awaji Esquire, how together they have destroyed the Bank of Ghana, the lender of last resort. We warned them that the reckless advances to the Akufo-Addo administration was going to destroy this economy. They won't listen. So today the scorecard is that we are dealing with interest rate of almost how many percent? Almost 40%. Put that aside. You have exposed the Bank of Ghana, overexposed the Bank of Ghana to reckless advances to the Akufo-Addo administration. Now, government is not in position to repay. Because you see, ordinarily, as a government, if government of Ghana the Bank of Ghana gives you money by way of advances or borrowings, they do it at the monetary policy rate. Now you are supposed to service that debt. In the past, what used to happen is that if the interest payment is too much, government goes into a meeting with BOG so that the interest payment is staggered. Or if you have to pay $1 million Ghana cedis, say, a month, BOG will agree that you do 600,000. But this time round, the Bank of Ghana is telling us that both interest and principal, they are writing it off. I have never seen this before. And today, this has put the Bank of Ghana in the most precarious position ever since 1992. So you have destroyed the fiscal side and you have destroyed the monetary policy side. The pain I have, that my own professor who taught me monetary economics is on the Bank of Ghana board. I wish when I get the opportunity, I ask him, sir, how did this happen? The Akufo-Addo-Bawumia administration decided to destroy the Bank of Ghana. And Governor Addison became an accomplice in this enterprise. Painfully. Look, this Bank of Ghana had the moral authority to destroy the businesses of others because, according to them, those banks were insolvent. The Bank of Ghana, as we speak today, is insolvent. And if you look at the 2022 Bank of Ghana report, of which I have summaries, and in fact, I see some of the numbers from it. Do you know that if you look at the Bank of Ghana annual report for the year ending December 2022,
now you know make a talk.
The Bank of Ghana is telling us that for the year ending December 2022, they spent 131 million Ghana cedis on car maintenance. 110, that's $11 million on maintenance of car within 1 year.
The Bank of Ghana.
The Bank of Ghana.
According to the annual report.
Their own annual report. 2021, they were doing 61 million. It jumped to 131, over 100% within 1 year. On personnel, the cost of paying, salaries, emolument, and others. For 2022, Bank of Ghana did 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. That is more than the 2021 expenditure of 1.2 billion on salaries and emolument. For foreign travels and domestic travel, and that is what beats my imagination. Look, in Ghana here, how many Bank of Ghana offices do we have in Ghana here? Hohoe, Accra, the whole, and then I think Kumasi.
You have one on the Spintex Road.
Yes. The domestic and foreign travels. Bank of Ghana did 97 million Ghana cedis on travels alone. Addison, if these are your personal finances, Addison and Dr. Maxwell Opoku and Elsie, if you are running your own company, would you spend 97 million Ghana cedis on foreign travel and domestic travel?
Well, somebody said they are the central bank. They needed to make sure. And we're not in a very good situation. So, they have to travel up and down.
What unique thing did the Bank of Ghana do to this economy in 2022? Beyond the borrowing, the advances to government, the reckless advances to government, contrary to law. What exactly did Governor Addison do? What unique thing did they do to this economy to warrant spending 97 million Ghana cedis on domestic and foreign travels? Communication expenses alone was 32 million Ghana cedis. So if you pick the Bank of Ghana expenses as captured in their own 2022 annual report, the numbers are immoral. The numbers are insane. And for some of us, we are not surprised. Yes, we are not surprised at all as to the state of the Ghanaian economy. Painfully, do you know that today, monies outside our banking system is the highest that we have seen since 2013?
How did you draw that conclusion?
No, because the numbers are here. that over 32 billion Ghana cedis is outside the banking system.
That's
How did we, no, that is dangerous. How did we get here? And you see, anytime, right, you have more money outside the banking system, the principle of economics is that our marginal propensity to consume is always higher than the marginal propensity to save. So the net result is that there will be more money chasing fewer goods. So do you now understand why we are battling with almost 42% inflationary numbers? And anytime your inflation is at 42, what it means is that your disposable income, the income that you get, gets halved by almost 42%. I mean, this is ridiculous. And I'll conclude on this. At the time when John Mahama was leaving office,
your time has ended.
We're doing inflation rate of almost 16%. And our friends said that is the mark of incompetence. So the man who is doing inflation of 42%, how do you call him? Beyond incompetent, that person is wicked because he's taking your disposable income away from you and making life unbearable for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Roland, we are in economic times when other economies have experienced inflation, 40-year high inflations in recent times. So it is also not out of it that we also, because we are part of the global economy, we'll be having some challenges. But even in the midst of challenges, I have told you what we've been able to achieve within the last 6 months. We've been able to decrease inflation from 54% to 42%, even in the midst of utility adjustments and all of that. Earlier on, we were talking about utility charges and all of that. Which would you prefer? Pay realistic charges and get your lights on, or let's go back to Dumso? You know what Dumso did to this economy? It put us on our knees. So these are choices that we have to make. Today, we have studied the whole chain in the energy sector, and there are real challenges there. We were given, or we inherited, a system where annually we have to spend $1 billion.
That's lies.
Annually, we have to spend $1 billion.
Complete lies.
To be able to keep this light on. We had to do this bank cleanup system, cost us $25 billion. We had to get headwinds. And these are all challenges that even when a government under the NDC did not have all these challenges, we had an economy that was growing at 3%. It had to take us to be able to prop this thing up to this level. You see? And so it is not a case. Today, the minister is going back to Parliament. He is going to give us an update on what we have done. And it's the reality. You can decide to be political about this whole thing, but the reality is that we are getting back to a system of macro stability. We are getting our debt system we are on track. The process is still ongoing, but we are on track. Our engagement with the fund, we are going to give you the updates.
I just want him to give
the updates are going to come where we are for our next tranche and disbursements. And so it is going to be, it is not business as usual. We have decided to face the problems, facing the structure of the economy that we run, especially our debt situations. If we take our debts to sustainable levels, we'd have solved probably half of our problems.
All right.
Given that we have to still
Parliament doesn't sit on Monday.
Still we have to contend.
Do you know why the finance
still
minister
wants to
present the budget on a Monday?
Oh.
Please go ahead. Have you ended? I want to end. Thank you very much.
But when
thank you very much. No, it's okay. No fight.
They are afraid of the minority.
Let me read some messages.
They are afraid of the boycott, and that is why they are forcing Ken to come today.
Please, your microphones are off. I've been assured by Harriet.
Boycott by who?
Harriet, my lead director this morning, and then Oliver, my lead producer. Oliver Lawson, thank you very much. Your microphones are off. And so let me read a couple of your messages. So I have this one from Tony Nukpenu, who says that, why is it that Mr. Fuseni is refusing to acknowledge that their own aspiring presidential candidate are indicating that Ken Ofori-Atta, Mahmoud Bawumia, and the president's government have failed? He is only being untruthful and diabolical. I have this one from Helga Boedi. Helga Boedi says, look at the Bank of Ghana and the state of their annual expenditure. Can we make those conclusions that the Bank of Ghana is now insolvent?
Completely insolvent.
It looks like now Jesus Christ himself must come to Ghana
all this will come out
to save the country.
So,
I have this one from Treadles. Treadles says, you see how Honorable Fuseni is struggling to answer your question. He has run away from the question you asked. The MPP has simply mismanaged the economy. No government has had it good like the MPP since independence. They have failed to match up to the promises they gave the Ghanaian voter in 2016. And now, 7 years on, are still blaming the old government. How can this be possible? Money need money says, please ask Honorable Fuseni why Ghana as a country, an agrarian economy, is still importing a lot of onions from its neighbors, while we have a policy that says planting for food and jobs. If they are doing better, he should live up to it and tell Ghanaians in 2024. And this one is from Stella Mamaji. Now, I have this one from Seidu Salaga. Ghanaians, hey, you said Ghanaians are not, no. He should never mention these two things on the platform. One, Ekumfi juice. What is the impact of Ekumfi juice to Ghana's economy regarding import substitution? We need numbers. That the economy in 2017 and 2019 grew at 7% and 8%. And so, is that going to be the yardstick when voters want to make a choice in 2024? Say to Salaga. I have this one from Sampi Yali. If the NDC had achieved what Issa is saying, why have they not upgraded our rate? No, the MPP, okay. Why have they not upgraded our ratings? Why is inflation 42.9%? Why is the Ghana cedi 12 to $1? If we have defaulted in debt payments, how do you use the figures to claim economic breakthrough and then progress? So I have this one from Kwesi Mensah.
I had so much time, but when I was speaking, you had to.
Please, can you hold the MPP guy right there to call another factory that is producing, apart from Ekumfi juice? Which factory is producing any other product? Is that I should ask you. Musa Abatwa Yaswasi. It appears the board of directors of BOG, including the chairman of the economic management team, are clueless and incompetent. And then I have a couple more messages. This one is from Prince Derek. He says, okay, so we have to do cash out. Okay, so let me just acknowledge a couple of my people on the stream this morning. Steve Jr., why are we always calling for measures if we did not take measures previously? What happened to the initial calls for the measures that were taken? Steve Jr. on our stream. We're grateful for your comments as well. And then also, PSA Kojo Isaac Shaggy, it looks like the answers coming from Fuseni are not going well at all.
What answers?
Okay, thank you all for joining our stream. Now let me cash out. Let me cash out. I gave you
exact
over the weekend presented a lot of sanitary pads to
she did a donation.
Yes, and it's so beautiful. I want to use this platform to thank her.
Okay,
and again, let's collectively with Issa plead with the government to reduce the taxes on sanitary pads.
Okay.
Akufo-Addo, if you cannot do anything in the midst of all the uselessness,
are you ready to
remove the taxes?
Okay.